Hi, everyone. Let me know if these comments sound familiar. Someday I'll get my health problem checked out. Someday I'll find time to spend with my friends. Someday I'll start the project I've always thought about. Someday I'll take that vacation when I can afford it. Someday I'll decide to finally retire. Someday I'll pursue my dream job and passion. Someday I'll write that book. Someday I'll try a new hobby. Someday I'll learn a new skill. Someday I'll make time for me. Someday, someday, someday. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the meaning of procrastinate is to put off intentionally and habitually. Let me say that again. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the meaning of procrastinate is to put off intentionally and habitually. Procrastination is seen in many areas, but for today's conversation, we're going to talk about procrastination as it relates to specifically people who are middle-aged and older. Younger folks in their 20s generally can afford to waste time if they choose to, so procrastination is not so much an issue. However, what about those older folks who assume they have 5 to 10 years to procrastinate? Some of the elderly who have habitually procrastinated when younger have become somewhat complacent to the extent that they have put their minds on autopilot and believe they have unlimited time to continue procrastinating. The reality is, as people get older, their body ages and health problems tend to potentially increase as well. There is an interesting article at dailyhealthpost.com dated September 4th, 2024, called Scientists Uncover 2 Ages When Your Body Starts to Decline Sharply, 44 and 60. Research findings published in the journal Nature of a recent study of 4,000 people from ages 20 to 80 resulted in a surprising discovery. Contrary to the common belief that aging process is a slow, gradual decline, the analysis revealed that aging is a series of sudden changes and dramatic changes. The 2 milestones in the aging process are described in the following article. The first burst, 44, and the onset of middle age, occurs at around 44. Let me say this again. The first burst of aging occurs around 44, marking the beginning of middle age. At this stage, the body's physiological systems start to decline, leading to a range of age-related changes, including weight gain, decreased physical strength, and reduced cognitive function. This milestone is characterized by a significant increase in the expression of genes associated with aging, inflammation, and cellular stress. The second burst of aging occurs at around 60, marking the beginning of an old age. At this stage, the body's physiological systems experience a further decline, leading to a range of age-related diseases, including cardiovascular disease, cancer, and cognitive decline. This milestone is characterized by a significant increase in the expression of genes associated with cellular senescence, a state in which cells become damaged and are no longer able to function properly. While these findings provide helpful information for future research on health prevention of age-related diseases, they also suggest the unfavorable outcome of procrastination, especially for the elderly. As people age, they need to seriously consider the fact that they may not have the luxury of time like they had when they were younger. People don't know when their time is up, so it will behoove you to stop putting the things off later that which you can do today. The time is now. Stop procrastinating. With that said, you may be wondering what decisions in particular that elderly people should consider not procrastinating in. Here's a general list I've quickly put together. Decisions such as when to retire, checking off the bucket list, having a healthier lifestyle, improving eating and sleeping habits, attending regular health preventative examinations, tackling new projects, engaging in new hobbies, seeking counseling to heal and learn self-love, pursuing your life's purpose and passion, enjoying me time, and living in the present. So let me just say this again. I think it's worth repeating. Here's a general list I quickly put together. Decisions such as when to retire, checking off the bucket list, having a healthier lifestyle, improving eating and sleeping habits, attending regular health preventative examinations, tackling new projects, engaging in new hobbies, seeking counseling to heal and learning self-love, pursuing your life's purpose and passion, enjoying me time, and living in the present. The decision to not procrastinate may be challenging for some of you because it may mean facing your fears, getting out of your comfort zone, and having faith that positive changes will bring about personal and spiritual growth, which are necessary so you can become the best version of yourself and live your best life. The problem with procrastinators is that later turns into tomorrow. Tomorrow turns into next week. Next week turns into next month. Next month turns into next year. Next year turns into someday. When? Meanwhile, time eludes them as their excuses keep changing for someday when. Before you know it, 1 year turns into 5 years, then 5 years turns into 10 years, and so forth and so on. The truth is that time marches on and doesn't wait for anyone. The procrastinators have chosen to ignore this truth and instead become paralyzed in their own fears and stay indefinitely stuck in the mantra of someday when. Unfortunately, it happens more often than not that suddenly, unexpectedly, one day, their time starts to run out. They spend the rest of the remaining years living with regret. Regret because they are now much older, confined in an aged body, with less freedom, compromised health, and lower quality of life. And sadly enough, their someday when mantra soon turns into the if only mantra. Okay, so let me just say this again. This is a hard reality and really something that's really unpleasant to really talk about. But you know, at my age, I have experienced a lot the last few years, and these are just things that I've learned, and I feel it's important to share with all of you. So let me just say this again. The truth is that time marches on and doesn't wait for anyone. The procrastinators have chosen to ignore this truth and instead become paralyzed in their own fears and stay indefinitely stuck in the mantra of someday when. Unfortunately, it happens more often than not that suddenly, unexpectedly, one day, their time starts to run out. They spend the rest of their remaining years living with regret. Regret because they are now much older, confined in an aged body, with less freedom, compromised health, and lower quality of life. And sadly enough, their someday when mantra soon turns into the if only mantra. In summary, knowing that the sands of time are running through the hourglass, it's important to not take time for granted and acknowledge that your time here on earth is limited. I invite you to make time for some introspection and think about what decisions in your life that you have been procrastinating on. Write down those decisions, prioritize them, and begin implementing them. With each decision made, be comforted in knowing that things will always work out as you welcome a new chapter and evolve into a new you. So what are you waiting for? The time is now. Stop procrastinating. Okay. So I just want to also add that the things that I've seen the past few years, okay, and I'm sure if you all stop to, take a moment and think about it, just reflect on your own life, I'm sure you can come up with your own examples and of things and people that have come your way that you are also aware of. But I just want to say that in the last few years, there are people that have passed all of a sudden, just unexpectedly, that my husband and I were not, expecting. We were in complete shock when that incident occurred. And, people around that all of a sudden are in poor health and have been in long-term poor health. We've had a close family member, my father-in-law, who had recently passed this past January. He was, and to be honest, folks, he was the healthiest out of all our parents. Okay, and so that came as a rather shock, as rather a real shock when we learned that he had stage 4 liver cancer. It all of a sudden showed up in a lab screening that he had. It was an X-ray screening, excuse me. And so that's just another example where if we had to hedge a bet on the family member that the parent that we thought would pass first, we would have all lost that bet. Okay, so I think it was just as much of a shock to my father-in-law as it was to the rest of us who learned of his health condition, which was terminal. And unfortunately, he did pass in January of this year. And he was only how old was I think he was only 87, 89, 87, I think. But and that's not and that, people say he's lived a good life. That's a pretty long life, right? But my point is that most of us who, especially those of us who are procrastinators, we don't think about the concept of time, how limited time really is. We assume because of whether it's family longevity or we think we're in great health, okay, that we're able to predict our own death date, okay? Honestly, a lot of us do think that way. But truth be known, only God knows when our time is up. And it's a very humbling thought to really let that sink in. Okay? And so, I mean, if you would have asked me years ago, whether I think this way, I would not even think of talking about this several years ago, not even 10 years ago. Okay? Because I, like everybody else, was somewhat procrastinating or choosing not to really put in the forefront of my mind things that I should be thinking about. And all the possibilities that are out there, and that time is not endless. Okay, so anyway, folks, I hope you found this thought provoking, and as I said earlier, take some time to really think about what areas of your life have you been procrastinating on, and perhaps maybe start thinking about how you can start moving those over to your implementation list, and start not procrastinating. Okay, and folks, there's never a right time to do anything, right? I mean, just like I've never had children, but I've been told there's never a right time to have children, right? It's just one of those things in life that if you're waiting for the right time to finish the someday win, right? It'll never happen. Human nature, I guess, just tends to put things off. And again, I want to stress that a lot of people don't think about the finite of how time really is. So, given all that, it's definitely worth some introspection, and I hope all of you consider not procrastinating and realize that the time is now. Okay? If you like this video, please click like and click share. If you know of someone that you think could help, if they're in that someday win mentality, please share that with them. If you have any comments, please put them below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do, so that you can be kept abreast of all my future videos. And I want to say thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.